Hello everybody, my name is Phythodas. Welcome to one more video, to one more build guide video with a very nice, interesting and super awesome looking, I would say, build. This is the new Medusa build, the snake head otherwise, we can see two snakes here. This build is based on this stuff here, which stuff if you go to get this stuff you have to play the 3 endgame dungeons. In legendary difficulty, this is a legendary stuff and it drops only from those dungeons. So, if you got to get it, play the dungeons in legendary difficulty and hope that you will get it to drop. This is a thematic build, it is all about this stuff, this is why I call the build the Medusa. This is a very interesting stuff. Maybe it is not that easy to make a very good build because it goes a little bit in the hybrid aspect of things. And so yeah, this is a hybrid build actually. But it is a build that deals very good damage and I decided to go hybrid and because after all the stuff itself deals physical damage, the base damage. And then it applies poison damage and bleeding damage over time. Bleeding damage over time is not the best type of damage in the whole game. Instant poison damage is a bit irrelevant. So we have the physical damage of the stuff, the base damage, which is not high. This up to 202 damage is just okay. But if you put together a nice build, then you can make it work very nicely. I started this character as a legendary hero at level 70 and I will tell you what I did with everything, but first of all, the attributes with a starting hero as a legendary hero, you get about 154 I think or 151 attribute points, and I didn't spend any points on health, I didn't spend any points on energy. Most of my attribute points went to intelligence, of course, because we need intelligence to be able to equip this one, 505 intelligence. Then you have this item which requires 493 intelligence, then you have this item which requires 493 intelligence, and so on. I spent some points on dexterity because that one was also needed, and it also dexterity increases also poison damage and bleeding damage, amongst other things. So it helps also with the damage output of this stuff, which this bleeding damage. And I spent 27 attribute points on strength because I wanted to increase the physical damage output of this build as much as possible, and because we need strength to be able to equip a couple of items. Strength based items. 27 points were spent on strength, some points, maybe 30 points were spent on dexterity, and the rest went to intelligence. When it comes to masteries, it is a dream killer. I decided to go with rogue mastery and dream. With rogue mastery we have the anatomy, this is a multiplier, we have the plus 136%, it is multiplicative bleeding damage. It applies to all attacks with weapons and spells that deal bleeding damage, so I'm using this one to increase my bleeding damage output of the stuff as much as possible. I have the blade barrier maxed out. This one deals bleeding and piercing damage of its own, so yeah, this bleeding damage gets affected by this one and by points of dexterity and whatnot. And the piercing damage also gets affected by dexterity and whatnot. I have this one to help me when enemies are close by to defeat enemies faster. I spent only a couple of points on this one to increase damage against and from devices and constructs. Then I maxed out the envenom weapon because this one provides poison damage to our main weapon attacks, but it also, this one is one of the 3 skills in the whole game that can transmit effects like weapons do. So this one can transmit flat damage from spells and items, so this poison damage is applied by our weapon, staff attacks, and also by this spell. And of course I have maxed out the night set to give more poison damage to this attack, and the poison damage improved duration, and I spent only 1 point on the Mandrake to apply those effects a little bit on the enemy. Maybe later, much later, I will max out this one. Last but not least in this mastery we have the poison gas bomb, very nice skill. It applies poison damage and it has meter range of effect. I have maxed out the shrapnel to also deal bleeding and piercing damage even more. And of course the poison mayhem, which is amazing because it adds more projectiles to the poison gas bomb and it has a much better effectiveness against masses of enemies, mobs. Of course, the Rogue Mastery itself also provides strength points, which helps to increase the damage of the staff even further, because as we said, the staff deals physical damage. Now for the Dream Mastery. The Dream Mastery itself provides again strength, but lots of health points, energy points, and some intelligence. And then we have the Trance of Wrath maxed out and on +2. This one is very good because it reduces resistance of enemies. This is multiplicative, the reduction to resistance, so this means that if an enemy has 0% physical resist, then this reduction to the resistances or to physical, it will not affect it. So you will not deal more physical damage to that enemy. But if an enemy has, let's say, 36 resistance to physical, and you apply this one which has 36%, you will reduce the physical resistance of that enemy by 36%. Not by 36 flat, it will not go down to 0, but 36 flat minus 36%, I don't know how it is right now. It is multiplicative, it is not flat. In that case, it affects the enemy. You have to remember this detail about the skill. We have maxed out the Lucid Dream, which provides more damage to vitality and physical. It helps with the staff. Premonition for defensive ability. And Temporal Flux for total speed, just to avoid projectiles and slow resist. I'm using as my main attacking skill the Psionic Touch. This is very awesome. And to make this one even more effective with my staff, I had to get +2 to all skills, or at least to this skill of Psionic Beam. Because this way we have the -2 charge levels of Psionic Touch. And this means that every second attack releases the buffs of this one. So you attack once, the second attack releases the buffs. If you don't have the -2 charge levels, you need to attack once, attack twice, attack 3 times, and then the 4th attack will release these buffs. Which means that every second attack releases this total damage buff, which is a very big amount, and of course it buffs up also physical damage, and this way we can have the relatively low physical base damage of the staff becoming much higher, and especially under the combination of some skills that reduce resistance of enemies to physical and this effect here of the total damage. This is a very great combination, and this is mandatory if you go to play with Psionic Beam. You always need, it depends on the build, but you always need to take it at least up to levels 8 of 6. Here we have the Distortion Field maxed out. This one provides survivability overall to the character. And that's it, we don't have any other skills, at least for now. We could activate later this one, for example, Dream Image and some other skills probably, but that's for later. For now, the build is fine as it is. For the items we have Envy of Set. This is an artifact that we get from Eternal Ember's DLC and Act. I'm using this one because it provides 100 flat physical damage to our weapon attacks, but also to this one. Because remember, this skill transmits effects like weapons, which means flat numbers of damage and other effects. So that one also deals the 100 damage, and we also get the skill Abdicate. The skill is this one down here. This one is very powerful, especially for builds that are based on physical damage output, because it has some very nice effects, but it also has the -30% physical resist, which is powerful, very powerful. So we combine on this build now for you to understand exactly what is happening, or I will show you the other items and then I will tell you. Then we have the Glycon Acolyte's Robe. This one is a very awesome item, especially for Dream Mastery builds. This build is a Dream Mastery as well. From this item we get the +2 to all skills in Dream Mastery, which is very important for the Psionic Beam add-on. But it also provides many other very nice stats. We have the Crest of Hypnos, a classic best in slot item for resistance and survivability. But here we have the Athena's Battle Greaves. This item is strength based. Remember, this is a hybrid build. This item is awesome for every single stat that it provides, including the +25% physical damage. And here we have another item which requires 600 strength. This item is amazing, it is a monster infrequent, it comes from Eternal Ember's Act, and I was very lucky enough because I found this one and that one dropped with, it is a perfect item. First of all, the Thrall Braces item as a master infrequent, it always comes with standard fire resistance and a couple of other stats. We can see that it has 3 times fire resistance. One comes from the item itself because it is master infrequent. The other one comes from the prefix this item has, which is the resisted prefix, which provides fire resistance. And the third one is from the harmony suffix, which harmony suffix provides fire resistance, cold resistance, lightning resistance, and says to dodge attacks every time. That's the harmony suffix. And this is how we have this item having all these resistances and 3 times fire resistance. And also I decided to go with the legendary primal magma, because that one provides the 35% attack speed and I wanted that one. I got it to increase my attack speed. So we have here a super duper powerful item, and especially for survivability it helps very much. But it requires lots of strength. We have the alchemy because this one allows us to equip this item, at least this one. Because this one is strength based. But the strength that we get helps for equipping strength based items, but also to increase the physical damage, because strength attribute increases physical damage of both spells and weapon attacks. So with this one we get lots of power. Then we have the Pendant of Immortal Rage, which provides flat numbers of physical damage to our weapon attacks and the skill spell, the barrier, this one. The Blade Barrier. It also provides attack speed and it also provides plus 68% physical damage. A very very big buff to our physical damage. And here we have this item which I got from Electrum Orbs to drop. I'm using this item mostly for the player level requirement for items, because if I remove it, this item requires level 72 and I started as a level 70, so I'm using this one until I level up to level 72, and later maybe I will probably I will replace this one with something else. Maybe I will use the Apollo's Will Legendary Ring, which provides projectile speed and resistances, spears resist and something else, poison I think, and fire, something like that, and, or maybe something else, another ring, we will see. But for now this one allows a legendary hero at level 70 to use this one, the Medusa Sanguis. So as you can see, this build is a net game build. Not only because it started as a legendary hero, but the items are end game items. All items are very high quality. And of course again we have the Medusa Sanguis. By the way, this is one of the very few items that were created by closed beta testers of Eternal Ember's Act. It was chosen through a poll by the community, the official Discord server of Titan Quest. The people there, all people, had the opportunity to choose from a pool of some items completed or created by some closed beta testers, and one of the items that the community chose was this one. So remember guys, if you like Titan Quest and you have a Discord account, join the official Titan Quest Discord server. There are many people there talking about the game, playing multiplayer and whatnot. To understand the whole picture, the big picture of how this build gets buffed, actually how the stuff gets buffed, and it works very nicely. Remember, first of all, the flat numbers of damage of this stuff is not very high. It is low, I would say, for legendary difficulty. So I'm talking about the base 202 damage. This one gets buffed by, first, attribute points to strength. Strength increases the physical damage output of all spells that deal physical damage and the weapon attacks, like this one. The second source of boosting the physical damage of this one is items that provide flat numbers of physical damage, like this one, 36 to 45 damage flat. The third source to boost the damage output to physical of this one is items or skills that provide plus percentage to physical damage, like this one, which has plus 68% physical damage, for example, or this one that has plus 25% to physical damage. The fourth source to increase the damage output of this skill is the skill, this one, Trance of Wrath, because this one reduces resistances of enemies, the fifth source of boosting the damage output of this one. The fifth one is the Abdicate, which has the minus 30% physical resistance. This minus 30% physical resistance is not multiplicative, it is absolute, or we could say flat. So, if the enemy has 0% physical resistance, the multiplicative from the Trance of Wrath will not work on the enemy, but this absolute type of resistance will work on the enemy and it will take it down from 0 to minus 30%. And you will deal much more damage to the enemy. And now, the sixth, and probably the last one way to boost the damage output of the physical resistance, physical damage of the stuff, is the skill itself, the Psionic Touch, which has also the add-on Psionic Beam, and it boosts up the physical damage of the stuff by 180% total damage. We have at least 6 sources, unless I'm forgetting something. 6 ways to increase the damage of this stuff. And this build works very nicely, and it is a hybrid, but it is a hybrid build that works very nicely, and actually it looks very dangerous and very nice. I think that visually this helmet with this chest armor and this the design of this stuff, they look perfect. We could also call it a fashion build, maybe. Of course, the resistances are not the best. This build is something like a little bit like a glass cannon, but it is very powerful and it keeps a distance, so we will try to survive the enemies by avoiding getting closer to the enemies and all of these things. Now, another thing, this stuff has the Curse of the Priestess skill activated on attack, which skill summons a Gorgon. The Gorgon is a pet that deals physical damage and it helps killing enemies faster, and it also looks great. The only minus of this skill is that it has 250 seconds recharge time cooldown. So yeah, that is a very long cooldown, I would say. But it is okay. I mean, we wouldn't really rely on this pet to kill enemies. We kill enemies and we get this one sometimes to spawn. It helps killing enemies. So, this is the build. These are the stats. Let me activate these two things. These are the secondary stats here. Defensive ability is not the best, but we keep our distance usually to the enemies. We have some chest avoid projectiles and attacks. Dodge attacks. And these things here. Now, let's go kill something. We activate also, when we have all skills activated, we can see these auras here, how it looks like. Of course, here we can see that we lose quite fast energy points because we have this one activated. But it is not necessary to have this one activated all the time. Why? Because even without this one, we deal lots of damage and we kill enemies like this. And especially... here is a Gorgon. Yeah. Especially when we keep our distance to the... Let's go kill something, for the Gorgon to kill something. Come on, Gorgon. Yeah. So, this skill has a meter radius of effect 10 meters. If the enemies are farther away, we don't need to activate the skill and lose energy. We can shoot enemies down, and if if we fight against challenging enemies and they come close, then we activate the skill and we deal much more physical damage to the enemy. So you use this one not all the time, but more strategically, so that you can save your energy, conserve energy points here. Also, one more detail. Since this skill provides a multiplicative type of reduction to resistance of enemies, and this one provides absolute, not multiplicative, reduction to physical resistance of enemies, these two skills, they can stack together. So when the enemy comes close, if you have both skills activated, the enemy will get the resistance is reduced by both if the enemy has some, flat physical resistance. But even if they don't have flat physical resistance and you activate this one will reduce it by a flat amount of the resistance, flat amount of numbers anyways. This one will work as well. It is a great combination because they work very nicely together. And they make this build much more powerful. At button marker, okay. So, this build is all about synergies. Whenever you go, you use that one. Whenever you go, you use this one. Come on, Gorgon, kill something. It would have been very nice if instead of one Gorgon we could get the skill provided 3 Gorgons, not as powerful as this one. And the 3 Gorgons would have much smaller cooldown. Because in that case we would have the ability to actually put together an actual pet build based on this stuff. But the way it works now with the very high cooldown and one Gorgon only, it is very hard to make it an actual pet build which will be very effective. So yeah, okay, this is Act 1, it is very easy for this build, so I don't even need to activate this skill, the Abdicate. And he is dead. So guys, this is the video for this build. I'm going to live stream this build very soon, it is amazing. And maybe, because this act is very easy, maybe on the live stream I will go and do Atlantis act, which is more challenging. And we will see how this build performs on a challenging act instead of an easy act. in Act 1 is easy legendary for a legendary hero with head game items. So, this is it. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below if you have anything to say about the build or in general. Hit the like button if you like what you see. Subscribe. And I will see you very soon again with more content. Have a great day.